Support comes from Missouri Forest Products Association, committed to sustainable and sound conservation of the state's forests, which support more than 41,000 Missouri jobs, resulting in a $10 billion industry. ChooseWood.com.
Welcome to St. Louis on the Air. I'm Sarah Fensky. How you feel about that sound is one of the great dividing lines of our time. And I'm talking, of course, about the sound of fireworks. An informal survey suggests that for every person saying wow as they light up the sky, there's another person taking angrily to next door or even calling the cops. And good luck with that. This year, many officially sanctioned fireworks displays have been canceled. You can blame COVID-19 for that. Large gatherings are forbidden. But people continue to light up backyard displays throughout the region, and it seems that they might be doing it even at a greater frequency this year than ever. So my guest is here today to help us dissect the great fireworks debate. Lindsay Toller is St. Louis Public Radio's digital engagement producer, so I think she has her finger on the pulse of St. Louis. Lindsay, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me here.
So, does St. Louis have a fireworks problem?
Ooh, that's interesting. A fireworks addiction, maybe I'll call it.
And that might be a problem.
Maybe. It depends on who you ask, I guess.
So for you personally, are fireworks something that cause problems for you?
I was not raised to think of fireworks as like a fun thing that you did by the lake in the summer, so I don't have any like strong positive feelings about them, and so therefore my strong feelings are, boy, this is annoying that it's happening late at night, and it really disturbs my dog. She gets very scared, and so I usually. We take my dog out to my boyfriend's parents' house in the county. So because I live in South City where it just sounds like a war zone. And so if we can just take the dog out to the county, then usually for me, 4th of July is a night without the dog. But this year we can't do that in coronavirus times. I mean, I don't know exactly what the science is about coronavirus and pets. They say things right, but this will be the first year that we're going to have her in South City for 4th of July.
You're not going to take her to the suburbs.
That's right.
How worried are you leading up to 4th of July?
I'm pretty worried. I don't know if you saw, one of our colleagues today posted on Facebook that she's been giving her dog a probiotic that has been really helping with calming. And that's the first time I'd ever heard anything like that. So I am interested in that, but I don't know. I've tried the vests, I've tried the sprays, and I'm worried about it, but also it really is just going to mean like a very sleepless night and a lot of comforting. It's not the end of the world, but it sure is annoying.
Now, you refer to this as a night, and I will say, as a St. Louis City dweller myself, I'm pretty skeptical that it's just going to be one night. In fact, I would say that in the last couple weeks, I've been hearing them in my neighborhood pretty regularly.
Same.
Every hour, one is bound to hear at least a few fireworks, and I have a feeling this weekend, it's not just going to be the 4th of July, it's going to be the 3rd of July, it's going to be the 5th of July. How bad has it been where you live?
It is constant. It starts probably 6 o'clock and ends late at night. Now, I'm still able to sleep through it, so it's not so bad. And also, I'm in a South City neighborhood where we often play the game, is that a firework or a gunshot? So I won't say it's super different. We live on an alley. Sometimes the sound of the dumpsters being moved and shaken is just as loud.
You get used to sounds in the city.
Yeah, exactly. But you are very right that it will be multiple days. It's already happening, and I think it'll last for a while.
So our reporters and producers here on St. Louis on the Air got some pretty interesting statistics about this that suggest there's been a big increase in people complaining about fireworks this year. From May 1st to June 24th of 2019, St. Louis had 196 calls about fireworks. This year, during that same time period, the city saw 879 calls. That's 879 versus 196, a huge increase. Now, the St. Louis police add, be advised that some, if not many of these, can be duplicate calls for the same incident. People hear the firework, a whole bunch of neighbors might call in. But we have them mapped out on our website where these complaints are coming from. That's stlpublicradio.org. It's interesting to take a look. But I was also very intrigued to see in my own neighborhood on this map that's been created on the St. Louis Public Radio website, the map actually shows fewer calls than last year, which I think is a sign that maybe maybe my neighborhood has just given up.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
I do wonder if it's like new. It's folks who never have shot fireworks off before who are just so sick of quarantine that they're like, I need to prove to the world that I exist somehow.
Yeah, that maybe that's driving the increase that we're seeing this year.
Yeah.
Now, St. Louis Fire Chief Dennis Jenkerson, he told us what he's observed this year, and he's seen a big increase.
I get around pretty much in the city on a regular basis, in all parts of the city. And I think the fireworks started much earlier, in my neighborhood, in the neighborhoods I work in the neighborhoods that we have, we got 30 different firehouses around the city. They're all seeing an earlier start and an increased amount of shooting going on early in the evening. That's one. Two, the size and the sound of these fireworks that are going off have increased, I'm going to throw a number out tenfold. I mean, just the sound of the explosions they're tremendous. It's almost like they're using a commercial product.
And that's St. Louis Fire Chief Dennis Jenkerson. He feels that there's been a lot more fireworks this year than in past years. We're curious to hear from you, if you're listening out there. How big a frustration are fireworks for you and why? You can give us a call at 314-382-8255. That's 382-TALK. You can also send us a tweet at STL On Air, or you can email us at talk@stlpublicradio.org. Now, Lindsay, Fire Chief Jenkerson, he mentioned this idea that they almost sound like commercial products. Are you
really heard that too?
Yeah, are you seeing these theories online?
Big time. I see a lot of people hypothesize that because there aren't as many official professional displays this year, we're not having nearly as many professional displays in our area, that have those fireworks somehow filtered out through a coronavirus black market into other people. I will say, fireworks experts and fireworks professionals will say, no, that's absolutely not happening. There's no way that that's happening. Mm-hmm. Now, that I don't know that if I was in that industry, I would say anything different, regardless of what the truth was. I wouldn't want my industry exposed that way. But that said, there are really convincing arguments for no. When the fireworks shows were canceled, professionals did not just say, oh, okay, well, we'll just give these to the public. That's fine.
Right.
That's it's a possibility, but it does. When I hear a fire professional say it sounds like commercial fireworks, that to me is telling.
It does give you some pause, thinking, I personally don't buy these conspiracy theories that municipalities are just unloading them to the citizens. Let's face it, fireworks are pretty easy to get here in Missouri, and some of them are so loud, it's hard to tell whether, is this one a municipality would use in their show? Is this just something bought down at the corner store? I don't know. We did ask the St. Louis Police Department for their perspective on these number of complaints and what they do about them. There's always such anger this time of year. Why aren't the police enforcing this? The police actually had a thoughtful statement here, I thought. They said, quote, "Our officers will continue to enforce the ordinance which prohibits the possession and discharge of fireworks in the city of St. Louis. However, it's worth noting that officers also depend on citizens to call the non-emergency line." We have that on our website if you need information on that, or 911, and provide specific details of these incidents, including descriptions of the subject shooting the fireworks, location of occurrence, etc. Many 911 callers typically give a general area when they hear fireworks, which can make it difficult for officers to locate the subjects actually discharging the fireworks. In order for officers to issue a summons or effect an arrest, they have to locate the subject shooting off the fireworks. I gotta say, in all my years of hearing fireworks explode in the city of St. Louis, I have no idea what block they're coming from. I don't know about you.
Or the look of the person shooting them off.
Yeah, it feels like that's an impossible task there. And
You'd have to go play detective.
Yeah, so what can anyone do who's upset about this? It just feels like there's not really a great solution here as far as law enforcement goes.
Yeah, Lord have mercy. We also live in a time where people are really reckoning with the role of police in society, and what a time to now have that conversation.
That's a good point, and I don't know that I would want to see the kids who live in my neighborhood who are firing these things off because they have been cooped up inside for months. I certainly would not want to see the police come take them away in handcuffs. That would trouble me, even if I don't love the sound of these in the night.
I agree.
I want to go to the phone lines. Joe is calling from South St. Louis. Joe, hi, you're on St. Louis on the Air.
Hi, thanks. It's not just the sound that's the problem, like you were talking about, if some kid sets them off, but it's the danger that they pose. Just recently, Cleveland High School, the fire department had to respond there because there was a fire at the old Cleveland High School. the fire department had to respond there because there was a fire on the roof, which I think was the second time that happened. And it wasn't that someone was setting off fireworks on the roof. It was debris from airborne fireworks that set it, is what they said. And I have had in my home on the south side some years ago a firework that was shot into the air, went through a screen, lodged in a screen on a second floor window, and then caught the wood window on fire, and then caught the curtains on fire inside the house.
Oh my.
They're dangerous.
Yeah.
They're dangerous. And this year, I'll say this, I sound just like a crab, but this year they are much bigger. And you do see people and give the police have a lot of things to do all the time, but I think even when they get the exact address, they can't go out there. But the fireworks that have been shot off look like stuff you'd see at a professional show, and they're so much louder. It's just amazing. But
yeah, Joe, that you make a great point there, and I'm sorry to hear about that incident. That sounds terrifying. On that note, this cost when a firework goes stray, St. Louis Fire Chief Dennis Jenkerson, he talked to our producer, and he recalls a heartbreaking evening, and this was in 2017.
We had the Macklin Deli fire over in Macklin that we know was started by fireworks. It totally destroyed a business. Not only that, that same evening, we had a fire captain who was injured severely in a fire in a building started by fireworks. He was about 2 weeks away from retirement. He ended up dying and passing from his injuries that he incurred at the fire. So illegal firework displays have become very personal for me. I mean, this was a great firefighter. I worked with this firefighter. He was a hard-working individual, and like I said, he had given his time to the city of St. Louis. He was getting ready to retire. He left a wife and a couple of children. It becomes very personal when people look at you. Oh, what kind of damage can I do with a bottle rocket? A bottle rocket can start a fire.
And that's Fire Chief Dennis Jenkerson. He did have just one request for those of us living in the area.
We're asking everybody not to shoot off fireworks to help protect the lives and the families of the St. Louis City firefighters. These things are very dangerous. They cause severe injuries, and they cause deaths. We've seen it.
And that is St. Louis Fire Chief Dennis Jenkerson. And we're talking fireworks today with St. Louis Public Radio digital engagement producer Lindsay Toller. I know there's a lot of you on the phone lines eager to join us in that. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll take some of those calls and we'll continue this conversation. This is St. Louis on the Air on St. Louis Public Radio, 90.7 KWMU.
Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association. Missouri produces wood pallets, railroad ties, white oak barrels, hardwood floors, and more. Details on the variety of products made in the state are at choosewood.com.
Welcome back. We're talking with St. Louis Public Radio's own digital engagement producer, Lindsay Toller, and the subject is fireworks. And there they go again. Complaints are way up this year. So who does that affect, and what, if anything, can we do about it? We're going to go to some callers here in a minute. We do have lines open if you want to join us. We're curious about your experience with fireworks. How big a frustration are they for you, and why? You can call us at 314-382-8255. That's 382-TALK. You can also send us a tweet at STL on air. Let's go to Robert, who is calling from Troy, Missouri. Robert, hi. You're on St. Louis on the Air.
Hi. So I just wanted to comment on kind of out in rural areas where we don't really have a lot of ordinances. In Troy, the city of Troy has an ordinance, but out where I'm at, farther into the county, there's no ordinances against it. So we've had people shooting off fireworks as early as the very beginning of June and sometimes earlier.
So fireworks are just as big of a problem in some rural areas as what we're seeing in the city.
Indeed they are. And as somebody else commented, some of the fireworks that are being shot off now are almost commercial grade. The sounds are incredible, going for miles, especially out in our area.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, you guys aren't as tight on top of each other as we are here in the city, and yet this is at a point where it's even bothering you.
Yep, that's absolutely correct.
All right. Well, Robert, thank you for sharing that perspective. Lindsay, frankly, I'm surprised by that. I would have thought that in rural areas, people could maybe enjoy these without having quite so much impact on their neighbors.
Yeah, and sure that sound the sound carries really, really far, and it's interesting to me. Obviously, this is not new. This is since 1776, I guess you could say. But if it sounds like what is new is the power of the fireworks.
Mm-hmm. Now, I don't want to only talk to people who hate fireworks, even though I know there are a lot of these people out there. We also wanted to find out who's into fireworks and what draws them into fireworks. And we were grateful that Ryan Gines was willing to share with us a little bit about his experience. He is a resident of O'Fallon, Missouri. He's a real fan of fireworks, and he says for him that fondness started back in childhood.
My dad, he was an immigrant. He was a Navy veteran, and whenever the fireworks came around, the 4th of July, that was like his thing, and he would give me and my brothers some like allowance money to get fireworks, and I've kind of always been around fireworks and always liked it. Maybe not so safe at sometimes, but I think that's like kind of the thrill of the fireworks and stuff. The spectacle of people watching them, it just brings people together, and they kind of forget about like all the other things. Yes, they might be loud and stuff. I think some people in the inner city like mistaken them as like gunshots at times, but I don't know. I think the thing is it brings people together. It lets people know, hey, the United States, like, won its way through, and we're, just keeping it patriotic.
And that's Ryan Gines of O'Fallon. He explained a fun pastime that he enjoyed back home when he was a kid in Kirksville, Missouri.
We used to do these things, like, back home in Kirksville, Missouri. We used to do this called Firework Wars, and we would literally, light off Roman candles and artillery shells at each other. We would section off blocks of the street and designate A team and B team, and we kind of go at it and literally try to light each other on fire. But it was really fun. I remember this one time we were doing one of these firework wars that one of the artillery shells went off right next to a street lamppost, and it turned the lights off because it thought it was daylight outside because it was so bright. And so the whole block was all the lights were turned off.
And that's Ryan Gines of O'Fallon. And while, he's a pretty brave guy to share these thoughts on the air, I know there are a lot of people who take that same pleasure from fireworks. These things are so dangerous, but it seems like some young people just can't help themselves. There's also some joy in hearing something explode.
Oh, they're so beautiful. I mean, I really love to see fireworks professional displays. When I got to work in China for a summer and during the Olympics, and the fireworks displays there were some of the most incredible thing. I agree that they bring people together. They really do.
And were they better? I mean, we think of China as this was the place where they invented. Are they better in China than they are here?
They were really incredible. Yeah, I think so.
Oh, you're making me want to see one of those displays now, because the ones here have been pretty good. Yeah. I want to go back to the phone lines. Jane is calling from St. Louis. Jane, hi, you're on St. Louis on the air.
Hi. Well, I used to love them, and we used to go to the VP Fair every year down at the Arch, and I absolutely loved them. But they were in a safe area, and they were monitored, and there were protections around them. But I got to tell you, here in the city, I live in South St. Louis, and houses are close together, and I have seen smoking fireworks on my roof.
Oof.
And I'm terrified to even leave my house when it's happening, even though my dogs are absolutely, scared to death. And we actually talked to the fire department last year, and they told us that these are commercial-grade fireworks these people are buying because they can buy them online. They combine them with other fireworks to make these bombs. I mean, they sound like bombs going off. And there's also vans that drive around in the city because supposedly they're illegal in the city. They go out and purchase them out in the counties. They come around with these unmarked vans, and people know about them, and they buy them out of these vans. So
wow. I mean, Jane, I'm actually speechless, which everyone knows does not frequently happen around
Very
here.
rare.
I was not aware of these van sales. Lindsay, is this something that's been on your radar?
No, not at all.
And Jane, have you seen this, or you've heard about this through the grapevine?
I've seen it twice with the vans, but I wasn't close enough to actually get there because they take off when
Sure.
they see somebody coming, because I'm kind of a Gladys Kravitz pit bull in the neighborhood. But also, we've been calling the police like every day since Memorial Day. This has been happening. And we have a specific address that we have reported every single day. And it starts almost like clockwork, about 9 o'clock, and goes till 11 o'clock, midnight. And we have reported this address every single day, and nothing happens.
Wow. That's frustrating to hear. And thank you, Jane, for sharing that perspective. I do want to mention one of our producers has given me a note. This was our producer who talked to Chief Jenkerson and got just that heart-rending story, that Chief Jenkerson also mentioned those van sales to him. So Jane is onto something here. I guess it's the principle of economics. If you ban something, people find a way to infiltrate, and that's happened here in the city.
I believe it.
Yeah, that's man. Wow, that is an interesting perspective. Well, thank you for that, Jane. We're talking about fireworks with St. Louis Public Radio's own Lindsay Toller, and our phone lines are open. If you want to join us, we're at 314-382-8255. That's 382-TALK. Now, Lindsay, there's also a bigger picture here. It's not just those of us who have dogs and might feel annoyed about it or the potential for fire. There's also some emotional stress that goes with these. And our producer, Lara Hamden, when we were talking about this yesterday as a talk show staff, she had some thoughts about this that she shared, and she agreed to share them on the show today. So here's what she had to say about how her perspective on fireworks has changed.
Paying attention to the news and paying attention to just things that my family have experienced in life, I started noticing how these were similar sounds and visuals to what was happening in war zones. And that ended up really changing my perception that even if I enjoyed how fireworks look, the sound really just on a personal level affected me and kind of really made it awkward. I'm of Palestinian descent, and so my family has always been paying attention to the news when it comes to that region. And in Gaza, in the Gaza Strip, there's just been multiple operations and violent attacks that have happened throughout the years. And I so vividly remember in 2012, there was a violent attack that had happened, and bombs and rockets kind of look like fireworks, you can say, at night. It's like this beam of light, and then there's this booming sound that ends up happening. And I remember that year during 4th of July, I was in Florissant, and I was watching the fireworks, and I thought, what an awkward experience this is for me. We're all here enjoying these sights, and these sights and sounds can be very, traumatizing for other people.
And that's St. Louis on the Air producer Lara Hamden. She said she also has some friends that are immigrants and refugees from places like Syria and Iraq, and that this is really hard for them. And so that's something she now keeps in mind. In addition to that, Julie Musnock is a psychologist and program manager of the PTSD team at the St. Louis VA. And she says that for some veterans, the loud noise from fireworks can be a reminder of combat experiences, that it triggers anxiety and discomfort.
So it really is something that we frequently talk about with veterans in the clinic, especially around this time of year. And we hear veterans talk about the fact that fireworks don't only happen on the 4th of July, but often happen before the actual holiday and after the holiday as well. And so what I'd like people to know is to just have that sensitivity and that awareness that it might be an uncomfortable experience for veterans. And there's some things to think about, right? So I'll hear veterans say very often that there's a difference between fireworks that are like planned and expected versus those that kind of come out of the blue or catch them off guard. It can be as easy as just having a conversation, right? And maybe even talking about, hey, here's a heads up. This is when I plan to set off these fireworks. And that conversation can really make a big difference in terms of just showing that level of respect and sensitivity.
And Julie Musnock of the St. Louis VA, she did want us to add one thing. She encourages veterans struggling with PTSD to reach out.
One of the most troubling misconceptions about PTSD is this idea that it's not treatable, right? And that really is a misconception. So what we've seen in the past couple decades is that there have been major developments and advances. And we have evidence-based treatments, especially psychotherapies, that can really help people get relief from PTSD symptoms.
And that's Julie Musnock. She's a psychologist and the program manager of the PTSD team at the St. Louis VA. So, Lindsay, we're headed into this 4th of July weekend. We hear from a lot of people who are struggling with this. And yet, as we've talked about, there's also this great pleasure that goes into this for a lot of people. Probably a lot of younger people are feeling that way. What's on your mind as we head into this weekend?
Yeah. Who was the guy that you talked to who said, I love them and because they're patriotic? And my dad was a Navy vet, right?
Yeah.
And I totally understand that. That's what we were taught, right? That 4th of July and fireworks is about patriotism. But then I think about what Laura, the producer on the show, is talking about. And I have to admit that when I hear fireworks, I don't think, boy, am I proud to be an American. I think, boy, it would suck to live in a country that was under air domination, because there's just nothing you can do about all the dangers that we're talking about are tenfold in an actual war zone. And some countries who are under air domination are under air domination because of us. So it doesn't make me feel that patriotic.
That's interesting. So going into this 4th of July weekend, you're thinking about the U.S.'s role in the world and
the
these
skies
fireworks
over other
hit that home
countries.
for you. Yeah, that's interesting. That's a way I've never thought to think about it. But I think Laura had a good point, and some of these other people had a great point too. It is just a shame that so many of the organized shows are canceled this year because they are such a summer highlight, and that feels like something that most people can agree on. Okay, if it's annoying, it's briefly annoying, it's over.
Just the point about having expected fireworks shows for PTSD, that makes so much sense with what we know about PTSD being a sensory disorder. It's not so much about the light, it's about the light being a surprise and how your brain translates that. And that's such a good point.
One last thing I did want to mention, one of our producers yesterday talked to Rob Sema. He's of the Missouri Pyrotechnics Association, and they actually do these organized fireworks battles, and they're all done safely. They're done by professionals, and this year they're doing one September 26th in Wright City. And he also talked a bit about some fireworks safety, and unfortunately we don't have time to get to that clip today. We'll make sure we get it on our website. But if you're a fan of fireworks, you don't have to necessarily shoot them off on your block. There is going to be a great big show in Wright City. As long as the coronavirus doesn't cancel it, you can still enjoy your fireworks without maybe terrorizing Lindsay Toller's dog. So,
that's right.
On that note, Lindsay Toller of St. Louis Public Radio, it is always such a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
This is St. Louis on the Air on St. Louis Public Radio, 90.7 KWMU.
Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association. Missouri produces wood pallets, railroad ties, white oak barrels, hardwood floors, and more. Details on the variety of products made in the state are at choosewood.com.